afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Alzheimer's disease and related disorders currently affect over 12,000 Vermonters, and that number is climbing as our population ages. In the next decade, the number of Vermonters with Alzheimer's is expected to reach over 17,000. For patients and their families, a dementia diagnosis leads to questions and concerns. So today, we're going to focus on Alzheimer's awareness and brain health. Joining me are Martha Richardson, the Executive Director of the Alzheimer's Association Vermont chapter, and Dr. Walter Gundel, a retired cardiologist who serves on the Governor's Commission on Alzheimer's Disease and Related Disorders, focusing on early detection. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Martha, let's start out talking about what Alzheimer's is and how it's different from the normal aging process.
Sure. So Alzheimer's is a progressive disease that affects the ability to form memory, thinking, and behaviors in a way that makes it harder to deal with the activities of daily living, such as meal preparation, dressing appropriately, all things that make you easy and able to live independently.
Mm-hmm. And that's different from the normal aging process?
So in the normal aging process, of course, we all slow down, but we're still able to have the cognitive abilities to make our own decisions and manage through life. It's a real change that is really making a progression and ultimately is a fatal disease when you're talking about Alzheimer's.
And Dr. Gundel, why did you decide to get involved with the Alzheimer's Association?
Well, I had reached retirement, which for some of us is sort of like dropping off a cliff, and missed my medical colleagues and community. And I'm indebted to the United Way for linking me up with the Alzheimer's Association, who put me to work in two different ways. First of all, they asked that I start to contact primary care offices, the basic home base for anybody with dementia, and inform them about the services available through Alzheimer's, the advantages of early detection. And secondly, I've been giving basic talks to community gatherings about dementia and what it is and what it means to us.
You must get a lot of questions.
So a lot of questions, and it's linked me back up with a lot of my medical buddies, and it's been a wonderful experience with a very caring, very special group of individuals.
Why focus on primary care community? Why doesn't it take a specialist to diagnose dementia?
You know, for 90% of those people living with a dementia, your primary care physician can actually make the diagnosis, do some screening and testing that really lets you know if there's a problem brewing. And the reason we're really focusing is because Medicare has developed a annual wellness visit that also asks doctors to start having discussions about cognition. We're really asking doctors to treat this as kind of a vital sign, do a screening, and determine how are you doing, so that people can have that discussion throughout their aging process, and we can look and see early on whether there are any problems showing up, because what we found is, like any disease, the sooner you start addressing it, the better the outcomes are.
So you should really talk to your primary care physician about some kind of baseline test?
Right. There's a screening. There are about 3 different kinds of screening that take 3 or 4 minutes and can be done by the doctor, by someone in the office. They're not complicated, but they give a real indication of how someone is doing and when any possible changes start to occur. Might be drawing a clock. It might be naming all the animals you can in a minute. As it slows down, that's an indication that, all right, something might be happening and we might need to look further.
And you wanted to share the story of the Dooleys?
Yeah, they are a wonderful couple right here in Chittenden County who have Jim, at the age of 60, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. His mother had it as well. And they've really talked a lot about, they went and started working with their primary care physician and talked on the medical side, but on the planning side, on the other resources that are out in the community to help support someone in a family who's dealing with Alzheimer's or any form of dementia, they didn't really give them the ideas of who to connect with, like the Alzheimer's Association or the area agencies on aging. And they would have loved, because you go to your doctor first, they would have loved a roadmap of where might I go after this and start dealing with this disease?
Because it can be very isolating. You know, you want to maybe not show that you are having these signs of dementia to your friends, you know, people that maybe you see on a regular basis, and you tend to kind of pull away from society.
Right.
Right, and probably one of the worst things that you can do is pull away and decide that you've done something wrong to have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia. We don't know what the cause is. So to think of it as I'm less of a person is not true. And in the early stages, people are very able to function. It's setting up for the future that is the most important at that stage, and having the involvement in making decision-making with your family.
Right. Dr. Gunda, what are the advantages of early detection?
Well, Martha's touched on some of them already, but from a medical standpoint, I think it's important to emphasize that among people who present with cognitive change fusing into bona fide dementia, 10% of them have a curable basis, which means a very careful medical workup can detect such things as very low thyroid level, severe depression, a drug reaction, benign brain tumor. There is a spectrum of curable causes for dementia that should be addressed. And if you said that a patient was coming in with a 10% risk of his presenting problem being related to an underlying and curable cancer, all the stones would be unturned to try to detect what is going on with that individual's underlying cause. Likewise, we should mobilize the same intensive workup in detecting and analyzing individuals who have early onset dementia.
Now, most people, we just saw a graphic come up, aren't told.
Right. It's amazing to see that 45%, only 45% of the people who have been diagnosed with dementia are told, or their caregiver even being told. And, you know, you look at the reality is so much stigma is still associated with this disease. And that's really a problem. When you look at cancer now, it's 19% of the people might not be told, but that's a major difference. And if you're not told, that planning stage and preparation stage can't begin.
And some people would say, I don't want to know.
That's sometimes true. One study indicated up to 5% of people said, I just don't want to know if that's going on with me. But to amplify what Martha was saying about early detection, one of the innocent, you can say, victims of Alzheimer's are all the family members and caregivers who are associated with them. And early discrimination of emerging dementia permits the caregivers to have their own link up to very vital support services. Because of all the people I've seen stressed in an office setting, it is, I mean, most commonly those who are caring for somebody with advanced dementia. Likewise, the individual patient will also be able to exercise a possible option for a carefully controlled drug trial of new therapies. And that's another very strong advantage that's emerging in early detection, that they can have chance for a new medical program.
And Judy, I think your point was really well taken, that some people don't want to know. But we've done a lot of studies to really understand that. And 5% don't. But 95% of people who ultimately have dementia, they want to know what's going on. Right. And their biggest fear might be that they have Alzheimer's. But if we can start educating them and helping them understand and prepare for the disease, the reality is they know something is going on. And for most people, understanding what it is allows them to move forward with their life.
And also, too, understanding how they're doing this for their loved ones to help them as well.
Right.
Right. Right.
Now, to be clear, what do you mean when you talk about screening? What exactly does the screening entail?
Screening usually starts with some awareness by virtue of an input from the patient or the doctor's own observation that there is a hint of cognitive decline. And screening, as Martha pointed out, is a very basic office-based tool to assess any cognitive change with a very simple challenges that she outlined. basic little remembering 3 items, the clock drawing. This is administered quite quickly. And can be done with an administrator in the office. It doesn't have to be the physician, many of whom were worried about the time that this takes.
Right.
They just don't have that in their schedule. So this can be done really very smoothly and quickly with an office staff member.
Now, I know there are also online tests, I guess, or screenings, but just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. You really should talk to your doctor.
I don't think people should self-administer or have family members testing them based on an internet sequence.
I think what we understand is that, like with any type of condition, you want to have somebody who can help you determine resources and next steps. So to be in that vacuum of, I just got a scary diagnosis from this online activity is probably not the right way to go about it. Really connecting with somebody who is a medical professional makes far more sense.
And I think too it would help because you get the diagnosis and you go through all these different emotions and that's okay and that's normal, but then you have to start the thinking process of, okay, well, what's next?
Right. And a screening does not diagnose you. A screening says, hey, we should take a step further and do a little bit of a deeper evaluation of what's going on here.
And sometimes it is just a starting point where there is a suspicion, but the patient is functioning quite nicely. And you wait 6 months and do a repeat, and you get a longitudinal sequence to see if there is serial changes going on that will be more helpful in sorting out the diagnosis.
Right. With Alzheimer's and any other form of dementia being more prevalent with people 65 and older, I mean, age is the biggest risk factor. This is just a basic conversation to start having and vital signs to be addressing, because there really is no stigma to this. This is a part of seeing and helping someone make sure that they have the highest quality of life level possible. What
about a cure? I know there's a lot of research going on.
There is a lot of research going on, and through the National Alzheimer's Plan in DC, what the hope is by 2025 to have either a disease-modifying treatment that really staves off the disease, or hopefully a cure. There's a just overwhelming number of ideas and research in the preliminary stages. Our biggest factor is funding. So it's interesting and wonderful news that right now, both in the Senate and the House, they are looking at funding and increasing by $300 million this year. That's a drastic increase, but we will still be under the $1 billion mark. And the research community feels like to really address and find that cure or treatment, we need to be at about a $2 billion investment in order to make it by 2025.
And you have a fundraiser too coming up.
We do. We do. Our Walk to End Alzheimer's is going to be coming up in September. So we would love to have people who are interested, and truthfully, everybody should be interested in finding a cure for Alzheimer's. It's affecting so many. But we have our 5 walks across the state coming up in September, and would love to invite everybody to get involved in one way or another, whether it's being a team captain or a participant, or volunteering to help with the day. You know, our work is really grassroots level here in Vermont, and we need everybody from wonderful people like Walt, who are getting involved in higher level, to participants, to volunteers in the office, to join us and help us really make a difference in fighting this disease.
Now, if folks have any questions on anything that we've talked about today, what should they do?
The 1-800 number that we have, 1-800-272-3900, is our helpline. And it is manned 24/7. So it can be a question for the point I'm worried about a parent or spouse and would like more information, to a question about my parent is wandering and I'm not getting any sleep. How do I deal with this? Or how do I talk with my doctor? He doesn't seem to want to listen to me. Or so it can be from information to actually getting a personalized consultation, and that helps. Also, our website is award-winning and very easy to follow, with areas for a person living with Alzheimer's and for caregivers, so tons of information available.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining me today. It's such an important discussion.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.